Well, hi, and welcome to Salesforce World Tour Sydney. My name's John Moran. I'm the lead for financial services here in ANZ, and I've just finished the financial services keynote, where we spoke about the disruption and change that's going on in the financial services sector here in Australia and globally. And we thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to talk to somebody at the centre of that disruption, the CEO of Australia's first pure play startup digital bank, Steve Weston from Vault Bank. And I'm here with Steve today. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to World Tour.
Thank you.
Not your first World Tour or Salesforce event, is it? You've been on a few before now.
I do feel like part of the family, but this is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and better each year. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. Well, Steve, we've known each other a little while, and when we first met, you weren't running a small startup digital bank.
No.
You were, in fact, in a really big role running mortgages for one of the biggest and oldest banks in the world, at Barclays. Perhaps could you tell us a little bit about your time at Barclays and some of the things you saw in the European market at the time that
Yes.
that have a reflection on what's going on in Australia right now?
Absolutely. So I love my time at Barclays, a business that's very different to the one that we're building at the moment. So 320 plus years old, 150,000 people versus one with a clean sheet of paper and very few customers. But actually the genesis of the business was very much based on my time in the UK. I had 4 years at Barclays London, 2012, got home in 2016.
Yep.
And I was really surprised when I got back to Australia that some of the really problematic issues for us in the UK, they were living right here in Australia. And when I went back and talked to my former colleagues or banks that I knew, and sharing my experiences from the UK, their view was, hey, look, it's not going to be a problem here, we're different in Australia. And the excuses they gave actually were the same excuses that we had given 4 or 5 years earlier. And it wasn't just the issues themselves that were similar, it was the way that people acted. So the bank said, firstly, nothing to see here. Then when a few issues started to bubble to the surface, hey, look, we're sorry for those. We'll clean things up, remediate where we need to, give money back where we need to, but they're not reflective of our culture. We don't need more regulation, we don't need more laws, leave us alone. And eventually more and more issues started bubbling to the surface in Australia via a Royal Commission, that in the end the banks were viewed as either being disingenuous, you actually knew what was sitting there, didn't you? Or you were considered to be incompetent. What, you didn't know that things were sitting there.
Yes.
But what that meant then is a whole lot more focus from the media, from the government and from politicians, and they acted very similar as to they did in the UK. So the politicians, they didn't mind giving the big banks a bit of a tickle up, not bad for getting votes actually, it's a popular thing to do. The regulators become more well funded, they focused on issues more, they grew teeth and were more aggressive in their regulation. That's playing out in Australia now.
Yes.
So very, very similar to what we have seen in the UK, and that means for the next 3 years in Australia, we can expect to see more and more issues bubble to their surface, and that is going to be difficult for the incumbent banks, particularly the large ones, and it's not a bad time to bring a new bank to the market to show that things actually can be done in a better way.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, great insight, Steve. Obviously, things are playing out in Australia in a very similar way to perhaps how they played out in Europe.
Yeah.
Perhaps the Royal Commission's accelerated that process a little bit.
It has.
But, looking for you, sitting back and watching that happen, what is it about now, in addition to these issues around compliance, what is it about now that makes it the right time to start up a digital bank in this market?
Well, it's really interesting. I often get asked, how do you come up with the idea of starting a bank? Do you wake up one day and how does it all happen? So maybe explaining how that happened is an interesting insight. So I got back to Australia beginning of 2016, went and talked to banks I thought I'd probably end up working with, found that there was this denial that there were any issues. I probably would have lasted a fortnight there before I become painful and they asked me to leave, or I would have left. But I actually was in a car park, a shopping centre car park, and I almost reversed into my now co-founder, who was a former colleague, Luke Bunbury. And we quickly went and had a pizza and red wine. We did reminisce a bit about the old days, but when we got to the serious job of talking about the future of banking, we were completely aligned. People doing more of their banking and frankly living their lives on smartphones, less about going to the branches. The fact that technology only in the last few years had come along so far in capability. In comes the cloud. Those technologies are now much more affordable than they would have been only 5 years ago. In Australia, 4 of our 5 biggest companies on the stock exchange are banks. It doesn't happen anywhere else. We've got an oligopoly. So you put all of those factors together, now is absolutely the right time to be starting a bank. But when I was first talking with Luke, the barriers to entry with starting a bank were too high. That changed in May of 2017 when the Australian government really took the last remaining pieces of key banking regulation from the UK that they hadn't already taken before. And one of those was the ability to make it possible, and I say possible because it wasn't easy, it was possible but not easy, for a startup to get a banking license. And I was watching our Treasurer at the time, who's now our Prime Minister, making those announcements, and I couldn't believe my ears. We actually started the Vault Bank journey that night. I didn't sleep that night, phoned Luke the next day. It followed with a 6-week feasibility study to see if it was viable to start a bank with 9 others. And we made the decision on the 30th of June 2017, and it's been a whirlwind since. So very exciting times and a convergence of factors were the driver of starting a bank and really to make it possible. Yeah,
so you've got an environment where competition was wanted, I guess, by the incumbent government. Bring more competition to the marketplace. It's going to improve the health of the financial services sector, I guess was the sentiment.
Exactly.
And you had this technology opportunity of being able to kind of construct a bank in an agile, technology-driven way, more cheaply and with a lower cost of entry than perhaps ever before.
So even and not even 325 years before like Barclays, but even if we were starting Vault Bank 3 years ago, we would have been making different technology choices than we do now. Technology, as you know better than I do, it's moved so rapidly, and we're lucky that we're starting a bank today and not some time ago.
Yeah, no, you're probably right there. Now, so it's interesting. So you're starting clean sheet of paper, but also clean sheet in terms of customers.
There's rough and there's smooth. That clean sheet of paper when you're starting is beautiful. You have 0 customers, not so beautiful. So it's rough and smooth.
So obviously, you need to attract customers, you're going to have to be pretty aggressive and have a very clear value proposition to the marketplace. Tell us a bit about how you see that.
We certainly will. So you can't get away from price. You need to be competitively priced as a new player. We have a very low operating cost model, don't have numbers of branches which are expensive. We don't have 90% of our technology budget going towards keeping the legacy running and not innovating. We're not going to have huge staff numbers, so we can pass on those lower costs in the form of more competitive pricing. But the customer experience, John, will be fundamentally different. So open a bank account, take a photo of your passport or your driver's license, do a selfie and follow the prompts and blink or smile or turn your head to the side, and your account is opened really quickly. People don't change bank accounts in Australia because they have all their payments records and bill payments and payees recorded. We can enable customers to transfer all of those records from their existing bank to Vault immediately. People will have bank accounts with different providers and credit cards and loans. You'll be able to see them all through your Vault banking app. We'll compare, with your consent, compare your regular bills, gas, electricity, telco plans, insurances. If we think we can find you a better deal, we'll present it back to you. You make the decision whether you take that up or not. We'll give you discounts at more than 20,000 retailers. And so there will be some really cool stuff early on. But the fundamental difference between us and really any other bank that we can see anywhere is that after 600 years of banking being done the same way, it needs to change. Customers are saying that it needs to change. So 600 years, you needed a deposit or a loan, you went to a bank branch typically, and you got that deposit or a loan. From that moment on, you were left to your own devices to make the most of it. Banks of the future will understand what their customers are trying to achieve, and they will bring the whole goodie bag of solutions, tools, bank products the customers need to get that to that endpoint in a more effective way than they have in the past. So don't just give me a savings account, bank. show me how to save, teach me how to save, give me the savings discipline, and then show me where I can get a better deal, both on banking products and on non-banking products. The banks of the future will understand the journeys customers are on, and they will help them with those journeys in a way that banks haven't done in the past.
Yeah, it's amazing. So the efficiencies of digital driving cost efficiency that allows you to compete.
Yes.
And then the customer experience of digital allowing you to offer something better than the market currently offers.
Transformationally better. Yeah.
Transformationally better. And then that other piece is interesting because that takes more than just technology. That's about having a customer-oriented mindset, putting yourself in the customer's shoes and helping them get to the outcome they need. So culturally, how are you building that sort of ethic inside a brand new bank?
So the biggest challenge of people often ask, what is the biggest challenge about starting a bank? And they expect you to say dealing with regulators. And let me tell you, that is not easy. It is particularly hard. By the time we got to full banking license, no relief from the credit criteria that every established bank has to meet.
Wow.
So you have to do that before you start. The most difficult challenge you have is you're bringing people in from different countries and different industries, all passionate about showing that banking can be done in a better way. And you're growing so rapidly, much of my attention is put to creating an environment where these wonderfully talented people can do their best every day. And that really requires getting an in-depth understanding of what customers have going on in their lives and then co-creating the solutions with them. So there are a number of ex-bankies, and then there are some people with hats and guitars and t-shirts, and we have a lot of fun. But that is the area that I focus on more than anything else.
Wow, fantastic. So Steve, we're almost out of time. If you're looking back we'll pick a time frame, pick 5 years. In 5 years' time, if you're looking back on Vault and looking back at your success, what do you think you're going to see? What's going to be the successful Vault Bank in your mind right today?
So it will be more than Vault Bank. This is a deep personal mission, not just for me, but for the team. We believe, based on empirical research, if we can deliver what we are planning to do, we will change banking for the better, not just here in Australia, but globally. And I don't say that lightly or smugly. We genuinely believe that will be the case. Now, we have a lot to do, but that's what we're hell-bent on doing.
That's brilliant. Wonderful, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing some of your insights and learning so far and your journey with Vault. We'll see you again, I'm sure, soon and check on your progress.
And thanks for all your help too, John.
Look,
the Salesforce team have been magnificent.
It's a pleasure. It's a great partnership. We really enjoy working with you guys. That's all from us. A wonderful insight into the world of digital banking in Australia and a real innovator and disruptor in the marketplace, Vault Bank. Enjoy the rest of World Tour.